My life was like being on a train going 150 miles per hour, and you look at the landscape and everything was blurred. I couldn't see nothing clear. That I retired, this train is hardly moving. And I'm looking through the window and say, wow, look at that.
I can see, yeah. In our fast-paced world, it's easy to get swept up in the currents that surround us. But we are the authors of our own life story, and we are infinitely capable of creating the change we want to see within us and beyond. Welcome to Shaping Freedom, a show where we explore and share practical ways to cultivate extraordinary life experiences. I'm your host, Lisane Basquiat. I'm a teacher, entrepreneur, and life strategist. After a career as a corporate executive, I embarked on my own path of entrepreneurship and focused on the human and spirit connection. I come from generations of trailblazing entrepreneurs, artists, healers, and champions of human dignity. Today, we have a very special guest, Dr. Salvatore Forcina. Dr. Forcina is an accomplished doctor and author of The American Doctor. In this discussion, Dr. Forcina shares his personal story of growing up in a small town in Italy and then in Argentina, where his family struggled to make ends meet. He talks about how his parents' hard work and sacrifice inspired him to pursue his dream of becoming a doctor. Despite facing numerous challenges, including learning a new language and being an immigrant in this country, Dr. Forcina persevered and ultimately achieved his goal. Throughout our conversation and in his book, The American Doctor, Dr. Forcina emphasizes the importance of hard work, determination, and resilience in achieving true success. He also highlights the role of education and continuous learning in achieving one's goals. So what can we learn from Dr. Forcina's journey and insights? How can we apply his lessons to our own lives and to the pursuit of our own dreams? By the end of this episode, we'll deliver practical advice and inspiration for anyone looking to achieve their own goals. Join us as we explore the journey to success and the pursuit of the American dream with Dr. Salvatore Forcina. So, Dr. Forcina, how's that?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm really excited to have this conversation with you today, sir. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you so much for agreeing to chat with me. Welcome to the Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast. And
thank you.
What I'm really excited about is this podcast and the conversations that we have are really about people who are, just ordinary people who have done extraordinary things with their lives and with their time on this planet. And what was very interesting for me about having a conversation with you is the fact that we share a first generation existence, which is a very unique one for a lot of people. So I do want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure.
Yeah. And also I wanted to talk to you about first of all, you have a book that's coming out called The American Doctor.
Yes. In March the 28th. It can be ordered on Amazon already.
Perfect. So I want to talk a bit about that book and about what inspired you to write that book. And we'll get to that part of the conversation. What I really would love to talk to you about leading up to that is really your story as an immigrant and your story, your childhood, and kind of I know that you've done incredible things. You're a former surgeon and have been very successful in this country. And I'd love to talk a bit. Maybe we can start off with, tell us a little bit about who you are. Who is Salvatore Forcina?
Yes. I was born in Italy in 1941 during World War II. In between Rome and Naples, that there was the area there was so tragedy, atrocity, mines, people disappear, it was the end of the world, really. So my parents, my father, in 1947, in desperation, he went to Argentina at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually 2 years after, in 49, my brother, me, and my mother joined him because he felt that being so far away, Argentina at that time was at the end of the world, really. He was in the Italian Navy. He lost his brother-in-law. His father was disappeared. They didn't know where he was. So it was really, he got like a psychosis about the war.
Mm-hmm.
So he felt that for me and my brother, the best way was to go to Argentina, far away from the war. We are talking about 49. And for him, he was a worker. And of course, the family were very poor at that time. And the kids, they had to help in the house, going to the mountain with the goats, and they had to start very early, and it was very stressful life. So he had only really second, third grade, but he read all his life.
Mm-hmm.
All his life he read. Oh, yeah. So he couldn't study, but he in his mind was to be somebody at that time. You had to study for him.
Yes.
And I was 8 years old. So imagine for me, 8 years old, studying, forget it. I was in the street kicking the improvised ball that we make for the socks and some cloth, and we kicked it was a dusty road. There was no asphalt. So, it was a very difficult time, So I didn't want to study. So what happened was that it happened that when we were in Argentina, and a group of priests came not too far away. There was a church not too far away where my parents used to live. And so they showed me a picture of the college and with the horse swimming in the river, the kids swimming in the river, whatever. So I decided to join them. I was with those priests in Buenos Aires for 7 years.
Mm.
The discipline was rigid, strict, were a German priest. And of course, in the beginning, I didn't do well at all.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I was 11 years old. I saw my parents once a year. It was a boarding school, and I saw my parents once a year. And so I was there for 7 years. There was a lot of discipline, the rule and regulation. They made me very timid, shy, introverted. So psychologically, I was affected.
How did you interact with your parents? I mean, to go from being with your parents and now being away from them and being in a different environment and
Well,
being kind of
are you talking
alone
about that time or
at that
after?
time.
Well, you know what happened? I was 11 years old, separated from my mother. The anxiety. It was, and you know what happened? This was like some sort, in some way, some military school. There is no love. There is just order, and you follow. Otherwise, you're going to be punished in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Either psychological punishment or corporal punishment.
Right.
In more than one occasion, my ears were pulled and shaking like 11 years old. It's it was something very difficult that for many years took me many years to face people and so eventually it changed a lot when I came to this country, because over there you were so intimidated that you didn't ask a question.
Mm-hmm.
I asked a question, but if I didn't have the answer the question, I was expecting for me to slap me. Somebody was going to slap me because you're so stupid.
That's what you got accustomed to, yeah.
But that's the attitude. That's psychological. That was terrible.
Mm-hmm. How did you get to this country? Let's fast forward a little bit.
What happened? I became a doctor in Argentina, and I had to tell you, I was the son of the immigrant, and not too many immigrants at that time went to university. So I had to study without books. My parents couldn't afford the books.
Wow. Why a doctor? What made you want to become a doctor?
Well, because you see, the mentality of that time when my parents grew up, a professional, to be a teacher, to be a doctor, to be a lawyer, to be a priest, everybody will bend their head for you.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was that that symbolic figure, the doctor, was like being in the top of the mountain.
You know, may I share, I'm sorry, a quick similarity. I was born in Brooklyn, and I'm first generation also. So my
I know
father,
Brooklyn. Yes.
I
Yes.
love Brooklyn. I'm in
Yeah, good
California
food.
now. Yes. Great food, great people. And it's a bit of a melting pot, but I am the daughter of a Haitian father and a Puerto Rican mother. And so in our household, when I was a kid and my parents weren't together, we wound up being raised by our father. And being from Haiti, it was very similar, where you were a doctor or a finance person or a teacher. Like those were the,
Yeah.
the good professions to have, the
Yeah, sure.
acceptable
Yeah.
professions to have in
Respected
order to be
profession.
accepted, and also
Yeah.
in order to be respected, excuse me, and also in order to be considered a success. Those were
Yes.
the
You got it.
yeah,
Yeah.
those were
You're
the
right.
professions.
Yeah. So now, imagine being a doctor, but now being a doctor in America.
So you were in Argentina, and so you went to
Yeah.
school in Argentina. And how did you
Yeah.
get from Argentina to the United States, and what happened?
I
Mm-hmm.
went to Italy when I graduated because I was supposed to get my specialty there. I was going to specialty,
Okay.
but I had to wait until September for the school. While I was there, when my parents live in Scauri, there's a beautiful summer resort beach, and so some friend from the United States, acquaintance with my family, they saw me, they knew a little bit about me, and they convinced me to come to the United States.
Okay.
So I have family here. I came here, they invite me here, whatever. Now the problem, first of all, I didn't speak a word of English.
Oh, okay.
And my degree was not recognized here.
Which is the story of so
How do you like
many.
that?
I
How do you
know.
like that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, so I had to go. I saw the opportunity that this country will offer me. I mean, nobody was going to lie a red carpet for me, but I knew I had to work very hard. But compared with I had seen or lived at that time, I said, this is, for me, is a future.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So what happened was that I had to borrow money for my family and go to New York University. I had to take courses. And after I took those courses, I had to pass an exam for a foreign graduate or the American graduate outside United States. And that exam didn't recognize my diploma. No, that exam allowed me to apply to a resident program for 5 years.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
So this was the path to get back to where you had what you had already attained.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you, to pass the exam, first of all, I was 28 years old and I never saw multiple choice in my life. So imagine to take the thinking behind that. Now it's much easier because now, after so many years, so many exams. But at that time, you had to position yourself in my situation. Here I am, in middle of another country. The customer different, the language is different. I don't understand anything. I had to take this exam just thinking about the exam, I had nightmares.
Of course, of course.
Was no easy. Was no easy, believe me. But you know what happened? My father, when I was a little boy, he used to talk to me. He used to talk to me, and the effect of that talk at that time I didn't understand. But as the time passed by, I was convinced I want to be somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Because psychologically, when I was in Argentina, and when sometimes I was invited to some party or whatever, okay, because of my clothes, my parents couldn't afford the clothes, jacket or whatever that the other,
Mm-hmm.
because all the other friend of mine, they were the son of the lawyers, doctors, estancier, people who own a lot of property, they had land and cows, they well off. So I was really the son of the immigrant, but immigrant coming from the basement.
So it wasn't like you were here because your family had, so much money. You were here and you were truly struggling.
Just
Yeah.
struggling, yeah.
Yeah.
And so they helped me in the best way I could. So anyhow, I eventually took the exam. The first time I failed because you see what happened. I didn't know even there was a timing. I used to get up. I had tremendous headaches because I was not you. Sometimes I didn't understand the way that the phrase was made. I couldn't understand, and as you get tired, forget it. I got lost. So eventually, they say I used to get up, go drink some water, and they used to tell. Suddenly, the proctor say you have half an hour to finish. Imagine I panic, and the result was terrible. Anyhow, so eventually I was really down. My family encouraged me, but I was not easy, and so I had to study and study, and eventually took the exam again. And after several months of waiting, I got the good result, and I applied to the internship residence program, 5-year training, being on call every other night.
That takes such an incredible amount of determination and focus,
Yes,
because already becoming a doctor and going through the training and the residency and all of that is grueling. But to
yes.
do that as someone who's new to the country, who came to the country not speaking the language, that requires an extra bit of fortitude. What drove you? So, I mean, because that you were here in this country, and I would imagine that after experiencing what you experienced in Argentina, you could have decided that you were just going to do something that was easier. Like, what drove you? What inspired you to
Well,
continue on this path that was so challenging?
first of all, I'm going to tell you, as a human being, I have my up and my down.
Yeah.
There were more than one time that I was ready to quit. I was so down,
Mm-hmm.
okay, psychologically. But what inspired me is, like I said before, that small talk that my father used to do, we used to have.
Mm-hmm.
That in the beginning didn't open anything, didn't open any window or any light for me, but gradually this was the effect that you have a drop of water on steady drop of water on a rock.
Mm-hmm.
A steady drop within 1 week, 1 month, 1 year, nothing happened. But time is going to make a hole. And this was my father. I give a credit to him because he put inside me some flame, some internal,
Mm.
nothing big, nothing big, but there was a curiosity, something that, I was in a hole, in a dark hole, and I saw the light, and I want to get out of the hole.
Mm-hmm. What did he say to you? What did he say to you? And I'm asking these questions. I'm asking these questions because there are people who are listening, and a lot of this conversation is really uh, helping people to draw some inspiration from your story. So I'm going to stop you along the way because I want to know, like, for someone who might be in a ditch themselves right now, I want us to offer some light for them. So what was it that he said that helped you?
First of all, I saw the example of their life. They were working very hard in Argentina. They were in Argentina for 30 years. And whatever they have saved, the revolution came and the inflation, and they lost everything.
Mm.
Already they have been through the war.
Mm-hmm.
They have lost everything. They go to the end of the war in Argentina and they lose everything again. At this time already, they went young to Argentina, but now, after a year after, you don't have the energy to start all over again.
Right.
Okay? So, in the way that my father used to tell me about the simple life that they have, this was when he was young. They didn't have telephone, they didn't have TV. The majority of the people, they didn't know how to write, how to read.
Mm-hmm.
And so one person knew a little bit, knew something, the communication, didn't have radio, nothing. So everybody was around this person that was reading something, and maybe he has a limitation too, and maybe in some way he was inventing part of whatever the story.
Creating the story, right.
You understand what I'm saying? So the dependence, that's the environment they were living. That's the environment they're living. So anyhow, so what happened, I understood to leave their own country at that time. You had your roots, you had the language, you had your family, you had the friends or whatever. You grow up, a simple life, but you still have, they were supported. You had to go be transplanted in middle of nowhere. It's like you take a tree and you go in the middle of Sahara Desert and you plant that tree in the middle of Sahara Desert. What's the chance for that tree to bear fruit?
Right. But they did.
Well, so, and what happened is, so a combination of a factor, and so my father, like I said, I didn't want to study. My father was a worker, so he had callus in the hand, and sometimes he got frustrated. He said, look at this, my hand. This is what you want to do. This is what you want to, all combination, all that, it's like that drop of water I was telling you. But the important thing is that he started inside myself, inside of me, a motivation, a desire to succeed. What is the chance for somebody to succeed? You have fantasy, but you don't know how tall is the mountain you have to climb.
Yeah. But it sounds like what you did have was a connection to your father, and you had,
Yes.
You spoke the language of each other. And I mean, the language of
Yeah.
your heart, where what he
Yeah.
was sharing with you was, I've had this experience and I want something better for you. And
Yeah.
you were able to hear him.
Yeah.
So it sounds like, for people who believe that the way you get to where you get is because you have financial privilege or all of that.
No.
This is a
I had
story.
zero.
This is a
Zero.
story of none of that. This is a story of, and I think that that's also, something that a lot of people, there's the determination. It's your mindset. It's the fact that you were willing to be uncomfortable and that you had the role model of your parents who had worked
That's
very,
right.
very hard.
I was a lucky guy because I have a father and a mother.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very important for the young kids.
Yeah. Yeah.
To have somebody that, because somebody that in a simple way, they hug you, they cannot give you too much, but they are there for you.
Right. They give you what they have.
And that's very important.
Right. So now you're here in this country and you've gone through school. And then so now you yourself are an immigrant to this country. So what happens
That's right.
then?
Now, after 5 years of training, I started private practice. But who is Salvatore Forcina? I was nobody. And I was already maybe 35, 36 years old. I still haven't made one penny. And the years are passing by.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to be around the hospital night and day.
Mm-hmm.
Because when somebody is not around or need help or whatever, in surgery, whatever, I specialize in surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And eventually I had the opportunity to assist the chief of surgery in the operating room. And more than one time, and so he was impressed with me. And so my training and this and that. So when he was on vacation, or he was not around, he allowed me to take care of his practice.
Oh, wow.
To cover.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, because the surgeon depends for referral for the internist or a specialist. So in the beginning, I was, the doctor will not refer to me because, as you can see, I have an accent. The accent haven't left me, all right? And so, I'm talking about some prejudice. So I can tell you a case. One time I was in the operating room, helping whatever, and there was a note there that I had to see a patient in the surgical floor. I went to see this gentleman, and for the moment I walk in and introduce myself, I knew without any word that there was a barrier between this person and me. There was a wall there. So I examined here, and he happened to have infected gallbladder.
Okay.
And I told him, listen, you need to be taking care of this as soon as possible, because if past infection is going to go to your system, you can die. And so you cannot wait for the chief of surgery to come back in 1 week. I said, okay, let me talk to my family. So I said, fine, sure. So the following day, early in the morning, before I went to the operating room, I went to see him. And at that time, he had the wife and the daughter there, a member of the family, and say, good morning, Dr. Forcina. This is my wife, this is my daughter, this is the attitude was completely different. So I said, when are we going to do the surgery? I said, wow, inside myself. I said, whoa, what happened here? So I went to the head nurse. I say, find out in the OR when we can do the surgery. And I say, Joanna, what happened? Oh, Dr. Forcina, since you left yesterday, everybody was walking in the corridor or going inside his room. He was asking about you.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I have a good reputation that I care for people, and I was available all the time. So it's nothing. It had to come with a lot of sweat,
And the courage to speak what you knew, like you had done all this training, and then what you were willing to do was to apply it.
Yeah, well, but you know what happened? Doesn't come overnight. You had to a lot of up and down. It's like the child had to learn to walk. One step, go down, cry, get up, and until he learned to walk. And that's have been my life.
Right. May I ask you a personal question?
Sure.
Do you have children?
Yes, I have a daughter. She's a lawyer, and I have a granddaughter.
Oh, wow.
8 years old.
Nice.
8 years old.
I have a 5-year-old granddaughter.
Yeah,
and a 16-year-old grandson.
Yeah, well, you see, that's the inside thing that I'm talking about. You cannot pay the love. And
absolutely. So how did your life inform the way that you approached your own family and the way you raised your daughter?
Well, first of all, the sad thing about this is
because she's also first generation.
Yeah, when my daughter grew up, unfortunately, there was the harder year of my life when I started to practice, and I was never around. So my wife, they took her to play soccer or whatever for the school or whatever. All the other mother, they were worried about my wife if she was widow or divorced or whatever, because they never saw, well, listen, it's a very sad. So, and I felt guilty, but what are you going to do? I mean, I had to be available. It's not that I didn't love my daughter. So many times she saw me leaving early. No, she didn't see me early in the morning and come back when she was sleeping at night. And for days, and listen, nothing was easy. Nothing was easy. Life was very hard. But overall, I thank God that He gave me the motivation. When I was down, an interior voice or wherever say, take it easy, don't despair.
Yeah. Before we get to the book, if you don't mind, so you have this incredible story, and this could be answered in the book, but you have this incredible story of having gone through and succeeded through the odds. What did that teach you about who you are? Or did you stop to even think about who you had to be in order to have this kind of success?
No, first of all, life taught me, first of all, I was dealing with life all my life, trauma, people car accident, people with a peritonitis infection, people with cancer. So I saw I have their life in my hands. I knew how fragile life is. And so there are, even when you're exhausted or whatever, there are still, you feel good. You had accomplished 3:00 in the morning. So I used to do vascular surgery, save somebody's leg from the amputation, bypass it. So you're exhausted, but still you felt you have given back something to the society, to this country, that they open the door for me. I was very appreciative, and I'm still appreciative all my life. So that's why I don't understand. I study without books. Here, the average student has books, has telephone, has a car, has a house, has a girlfriend, you name it. And they're still, some of them, they cannot accomplish anything. You explain that. That's what drives me crazy.
So what did this teach you about you? What did all of this that you did and the way that you've lived, what has that taught you about who you are?
Told me, first of all, I'm a humble guy, okay? And I don't have an ego because, I was driving a car. It's like my life had been like driving a car with a tire that they have many flat and many patches. Okay, I didn't come from my parents, my ancestors were well off or whatever. They prepare everything, and I'm on the top of the mountain. I was not there. I was in the basement. But what happened when I hope somebody maybe read this book in the moment of pressure, whatever, okay, and they say, look at this guy. He came 28 years old. He came here, didn't speak English. And I was not just, without putting down nobody, okay? I was not just a labor, okay? Nothing wrong with that. But I mean, a profession. And to be a professional, I ended up being chief of surgery in 2 hospitals.
Wow. Congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you.
It's an incredible achievement.
And in the New York area, I mean, in Bergen County. You're familiar with that.
I am.
And so my point is that if I did it, somebody with motivation can do it even more.
So it's an inspirational story. Let's talk about your book. So the title of your book is The American Doctor.
Yes. I told you why.
Yes. And I have one question. Tell me if you remember the moment, like what happened that had you decide to write this book?
All right. So when we were younger with my wife, I started the practice, okay? We were invited to many other doctor houses, or we went to other parties, and we were talking. And of course, you have people, they are doctors, they have people, lawyers, you have a politician, you have a teacher, you have everything. So when you go around, you start to talk about, and somebody noted or maybe somebody knew a little bit about my past or whatever, okay? And we start to talk, and then they begin even with my accent. I like very much the classic, okay, the classic music, literature, and this. That's the way I was brought up. And when I start to talk, first of all, somebody maybe because of my accent or whatever say, this guy, forget it. But we start to talk and we come across the reasoning behind everything. So some people say, wow, that's a fortune. Like I was telling you my story, okay? And so maybe you got a little impressed or whatever, okay? So some people say, that's wonderful what you have accomplished. Not everybody could do that. You should write down that. And you know what happened? It never occurred to me. It never occurred to me because to me, that was life.
You were just living your life. Yes.
This was life of misery, okay? The struggle. That was my life. So I didn't feel myself as a hero. But one time, another time. So eventually, when my granddaughter was born, I told you she's going to be 8 years old. When I retired, and I had more time, because you see, my life, if I can make an analogy, my life was like being in a train going 150 miles per hour, and you look at the landscape and everything was blur. I couldn't see nothing clear. But now that I retired and this train is hardly moving, and I'm looking through the window, I say, wow, look at that.
I can see. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now what happened is I retired, having more time, more relaxed, feeling like a human being. So I start to write down a few things and I sent to my daughter. And so my daughter said, yeah, that's beautiful. And so I started, took a long time, So everything started to coming back to you. And the main reason why I wrote this book, and I dedicate this book to my granddaughter Lennon, because when she's going to be a teenager, and those tough years, the teenager, we all went through that.
They can be, yes, for sure.
It can be. So maybe I'm not going to be around, all right? I got a certain age, I don't know. So I want for her maybe in that moment of darkness, maybe she pick up this book and maybe open a page and she reads something there and she say, wow, look at me. I have, like I told you, I have a car, I have a heat in the house, I have telephone, I have TV. My grandfather didn't have nothing. And the reason because I have all this is because he put the base for me.
Right.
To the foundation.
It's similar also to what you did, from your father, where this book, in a way, is kind of those drops on the rock. Like maybe your granddaughter might read it as a teenager and you'll still be here and she'll read it and gobble it up, or she'll read it over the period of her life. But what's beautiful is what you have is dissimilar to what your parents had, where there was someone else telling the story and then changing the story around. Here, it's you having a conversation where you can share with your granddaughter what you want her to know about your life. So tell us about this book. Tell us something else about this book.
Well, I don't know. There's so many chapters over there. I remember I was very emotional with my mother because I was far away from my mother since I was 11 years old.
Yeah, that's understandable.
So now, after I got married, so my parents came to this country for our wedding.
Okay.
And eventually we bought tickets for them and they went to Italy and we helped them to build an apartment and they live in Italy. And I used to go to visit my parents once a year, either with my family, my wife and my daughter, or I used to go by myself. And I have the more tender emotion with my mother because, the poor lady. You see, when I was going through all this, I never told them the truth about what I was going through when I was in this country.
Yeah.
The exam, I didn't pass the exam, the beginning, the start. I paint to my mother a picture that was not the true thing because I felt sorry. In gratitude, I cannot do that to my mother.
Mm-hmm. Was it because you didn't want them to feel badly about the experience that you were having?
Yes, because already they knew how miserable life was for them, and how difficult it was for me, and they're going to perpetuate this again. So I want to paint a different picture for them.
You wanted them to see that maybe what they were doing wasn't there yet, but would be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For instance, I can tell you this. When we were in Argentina, we were living outside the city, and there was no asphalt. And there was maybe you had to walk 10 blocks before there was asphalt. And I had to go to school.
Mm-hmm.
And the school maybe was 3-4 miles. I had to walk. There was no problem. But when the rain
Right.
and everything was flooded, there was no drainage, there was nothing, you're walking into the mud. My shoes were all wet. I go to school, I had to stay with my shoes wet all day until I came back. And I remember my poor mother used to have we were renting a house at that time. They have a stove.
Mm-hmm.
She was cooking with wood, okay? And in the side of the store, there was something to warm up the water or whatever. And after she cooked, the oven was warm, wait until it cool off a little bit. I used to put my shoes there to dry. And that was fine. But one day I forgot, and it was a little too long there. The inner layer, the sole, cracked.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And that was so smooth, and that gave me pain and blister.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what are you going to do?
Right.
You have to
Right.
keep going.
Right.
If you just fall down, you cry, nobody's going to listen to you.
Right. You cry, get it out, but you got to get up.
You have to get up. Yeah, like a child that had to learn to walk.
Yeah. If you could go back and look at from where you are today, having
Yes.
become a successful American doctor, a head of surgery at a couple of hospitals here, which is an incredible feat. What would you, if you could look back on yourself at, say, 13 or 14, what would you say to yourself?
Well,
if you could just step into time.
My mistake, now I realize my mistake was I don't have a guidance. I don't have nobody that opened my eyes. Nobody opened. I had to make a mistake. My life was like a person going through a tunnel, and you see a dim light at the end. And I keep walking. When I arrived there, there was a sign that said dead end.
Mm.
And I had to come back again. And that's what happened. I don't have nobody in my life that told me, do this, don't do that. I didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
So the more important thing is, first of all, I believe, to have your parents.
Mm-hmm. If you can, because you had your parents, but because of your life circumstance, you had to go someplace different. So you had them.
But my parents couldn't. They offered me the support, but
they couldn't show you how to be a surgeon. They can tell you.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. So they talk to you from the heart, but for you, that's I had to cross the bridge. I don't know how to swim.
Right. Right.
That's what I'm saying. So,
yeah.
So what happened? So the more important thing is to have a guide, somebody,
mm-hmm.
a coach, a
mm-hmm.
teacher,
mm-hmm.
a minister, whatever, rabbi, whatever, somebody that they tell you they have experience on life and can decrease your frustration.
Find a guide. Find a guide.
Yes,
Okay.
that's the important thing.
What else would you say?
Well, that's the more important thing. The other thing, you have to have that light inside, that motivation.
Mm-hmm.
In order to accomplish something, you have to have a desire, a strong desire inside. I want to do it. I was put down over there. I can tell story. I mean, in the books, everything. When I was going to go to university that summer, I want to help my parents. So what happened? I want to get a job. I want to take a job, but there was no job there. So what happened? An uncle of mine was in the knew somebody in the construction, and happened that the maybe 40 miles more or less from where my parents used to live, this millionaire had died and had left the large property to the Carthusian priest, American priest. They went there to build a convent in the middle of nowhere. All right. So now what happened was that I I said, well, I had to. I went there to work as a manual. And you don't have the equipment you have here. Over there, the bricks, you had to
Right.
throw the brick, and my finger didn't have the callus. My fingers were bleeding.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I remember talking to the other worker. No, of course, no student was going to do that type of job. Now here it's different. But and so they used to mock me. They used to mock me. They used to call me the doctor because I was going to go to the university. But not an encouragement, just to make
To make
to
fun
a
of you, right?
joke, laughing stock. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So already you have a belief or something. You need encouragement. I don't. If I'm drowned, you have to lift me up. Don't pull me for the leg down. You put everything together at different stages, and it's very sad that the thing happened even today.
Mm-hmm.
People,
Yeah.
people need encouragement. They need just a good word. What do you have to lose?
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think it's also, you created something for yourself. You created something for your life out of nothing, out of some desire, out of some, you had parents who pointed you in a direction and gave you what they could give you, right? Which was love and encouragement and become a doctor, or a
And they
lawyer.
believe in me.
And they
They
believed in
believe in
you.
me. They believe in me. I was 7 years in medical school. My father no once came to the university to check on me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I have a story in the book. I don't know if you have time.
I want to hear your story.
All right. So what happened? Not too far away where my parents live, there was another town, and this father, the son, was was going to graduate shortly. Was going to be a doctor or whatever. And so he had everything ready, he was well off, had a car, had this and that, and arranged everything, and everybody was talking about it. So eventually, the months were passing by, and then nothing happened. So he decided to go to university. He went to university, and it was a shock of his life. The son hardly went to school. He had a
Mm.
party, good time, and this and that. The father was so depressed and came back. When he arrived one of the station and the train the station, he went to the bathroom and hung himself.
Oh my God. Okay.
You see what I'm saying? The contrast.
Mm-hmm.
This fortunate guy had the mean, had the money, had the connection, and he squandered.
Mm-hmm.
And you had the other guy, this guy Joe, that is me,
Mm-hmm.
nobody, and you grab whatever crumbs you can grab,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and that's the beauty about life.
Yeah, it is. I think there's also something else there that that I see in that, and that is, I think that you can raise your children you can give your children what you have to give them, because we don't know everything,
Yes,
right? But
yes.
we can only give and share what we have. But then I do think that there is a moment where we have to realize that that person has the choice to take that information and do whatever they want to do with it. And I think that when you hold so tightly to what you want for someone else's life, that you
Mhm.
would be so sad and so depressed that you would kill yourself. I think there's something in that also.
Because what happened with this proof, I understand that, because you see, when you're in a place where everybody know you, until right now, until they've, it's like taking a bottle that was outside 90 degree and you put in an ice bucket, it's going to crack. So this is something, he was embarrassing himself.
I understand that. That's understandable.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm not justifying that, but it's a
Yeah.
terrible thing.
Yeah. If you didn't have a career as a surgeon, what else would you have done?
Well, you know what happened? What happened? My father used to talk when he was young. Like I said, at that time there was no radio, nothing. So once a year in the small square in front of the church, the priest used to have a few musicians that used to play segment of the operas at that time, some popular song or whatever. And so my father used to talk about the violin and this and that. So what happened when I went to the priest with the school, there was an orchestra for the kids. And you could play an instrument, learn an instrument, but you had to apply for that. I applied and I was rejected because my grades were terrible. I didn't want to study. So I learned my lesson. The following year, I started to study and I got into the instrument. So what happened was, and I liked the violin very much, and I used to play violin. So now, when I finished school and I had to go to university, before I went to university, my father said, "Well, what are you going to do now?" And then they don't have the means. I said, "I would like to be a violinist, a concertist." So my father, using common sense, he said, Sal, you had to be number one. How are you going to support your family? How many people are number one?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So another way, I was flying too high. I had to walk in the ground first.
Mm.
And so, but the classic, the music have been me all, even today. I do my biking. I do 20 miles 3 times a week. And I have my iPad to listen to my classics, and I enjoy. That's relax me. It's a different world for me.
Yeah. I think it's nice sometimes to have something to escape to, something to just be in and
Yeah, make you feel you be inside yourself, you talk to yourself.
absolutely, absolutely. Dr. Forcina, thank you so much
Listen, it was a
for
pleasure.
having this
It was a pleasure.
conversation. I'm so
Sure.
excited to read your book. This
Yes,
book,
yeah,
The American Doctor, written by
yes.
Dr. Salvatore Forcina, excuse me, and it is. You can order it now.
And people can follow me on Instagram, Dr. Salvatore Forcina MD. A lot of pictures there. You see
Mm-hmm.
my family, my parents.
Did you enjoy the process of writing this book?
Yes, I enjoy very much, but I have a moment. There were some moments that I got very emotional.
I'm sure of it, because you're reliving things.
Well, because, my mother died when she was 95.
Good for
And my
her.
father was 6 months to 100 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they work all their life. They work all their life. Somebody else would have cry or whatever, okay, but they set the example for me. That's why I had to succeed, because I saw them
Right.
You
Right.
see, without too much, but I saw how they struggle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
My mother, my father used to work with the bricks and this and that, so he ripped his pen so many times. So
Mm-hmm.
my mother used to sew that and put a patch.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the patch was different color.
Mm-hmm.
It looked like those parades in Middle East and in Europe, and they look at somebody like that. But that's what life at the time. It's hard for young kids in America to understand that. I don't want for them to go through that, but they should have a little bit of knowledge, history, how the thing came about.
Right. Right. And that there's a journey to follow.
America didn't become overnight a success story. Took time.
Yeah. So a lot of what I talk about is family legacy, and I commend you for pulling something together, a book project together, so that your granddaughter Lennon, and I'm sure your daughter Vanessa,
Yes,
will
thank you.
have the opportunity to learn something else about their father and their grandfather that maybe you don't have time to talk about, or maybe the opportunity to go back to those times when
Oh yeah,
maybe you weren't available, where she
yes.
can read and understand who her father is
You
in a
know what?
different way.
I went there. My wife, we were there in New Jersey for Christmas. I went there for 10 days. Ended up spending 3 months.
Good for
And it
you.
was beautiful. It was beautiful because even it was winter or whatever. But the nice day we were kicking the ball outside, whatever. Okay. So I felt, you know, all those years I had lost. Not because I didn't care. It's because I couldn't do it.
Right. It's because you were doing something else.
You see, life has so many beautiful things,
It does. It does. And it comes full circle, right?
Yes,
And maybe,
yes,
sometimes we're not able to do things at the time that we want to do them, but
yes,
there comes this opportunity that you're now
yes.
taking advantage of. What I commend you for, sir, is you seem to be a stand-up man who did,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
and what I also observe is that as a stand-up man, you have honored both your parents and the generations that are coming from you. And I think
Thank you.
that's a wonderful thing because you seem to
Thank you.
recognize that there is a flow from one generation to the next, to the next. And I commend you for that.
Thank you very much.
Mm-hmm.
And if this can be, like you just say, or help to somebody that is in the ditch,
Yes.
or somebody is down, if can help somebody, I will be the proudest man in this earth because I know what is all about. I was thinking today, even King Tut,
Mm.
3,000 years ago, was buried with all the gold and this and that. 3,000 years after, they went there, everything was still there. So what is the point for us to conquer the world? You're not going to take with you. There is so much you can eat. Like I say, you have a cup of coffee there. How many spoon of sugar are you going to put there before you spoil that? It's not the quantity.
Right.
It's the quality.
I love that. Thank you, sir. Thank you
I
so
like
much.
That. I like that analogy.
Me too. Me too. Thank you so much. This was such a great conversation. I really enjoyed my conversation with Dr. Forcina, and I was grateful for him sharing his inspiring story with us. From his humble beginnings in Italy to achieving the American dream, his journey is a testament to the power of hard work, determination, and resilience. And even though we're seemingly very different, I absolutely resonate with his story of being an immigrant in this country. I myself am first generation, and I absolutely understand that road of pursuing the American dream. So what did you take away from the conversation that I just had with Dr. Forcina? For me, there were 3 key insights. One is that success isn't easy. It's simple, but not easy. It requires hard work, determination, focus, and resilience. I found his journey as a reminder to all of us that achieving our goals is not always a smooth ride. It's the effort that we put into it that gives us the results that we truly want to have. Secondly, education and continuous learning is essential. I really loved his emphasis on the role of education in his journey and how that really helped to move him along in his pursuit of the American dream. Third, family. I loved his determination and the fortitude that Dr. Forcina took from his own family of origin and how he imparted those principles onto his own family legacy. So what's next for you on your journey to achieving your goals and to living a life of purpose and fulfillment? I really hope that the insights shared in this episode have provided valuable guidance and inspiration for your journey. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Shaping Freedom with Lisane Basquiat podcast, where we provide you thought-provoking conversations on creating and living a life of freedom. Please do continue to like, share, and review the episodes that really speak to you. And until next time, be well.